XRP and Stellar Lumens are outperforming a still sluggish Bitcoin and other altcoins this week. It's the topic of my latest newsletter with the tie. I'm just throwing out a plug here. But more importantly, for now, joining us to discuss the crypto markets is StockCharts.com senior technical analyst Julius de Kempenaer. Welcome, Julius.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Happy to have you here. So, let's look at Bitcoin first, because that's what everyone really cares about. Well, no, they care about other things too, but everyone in crypto cares about the price of Bitcoin. So let's take a look at a short-term chart that you have here. It's the very first chart, if we can call it up. This is a 4-hour chart that we see here. We've been in a channel for quite some time since the announcement of a Bitcoin ETF filing by BlackRock, and it's just been flat at 30,000. We got a bunch of options next week. Guess what the big strike price is? 30,000. Tell me about this range here.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been listening to your program since the start, and someone said at the beginning, like, "Oh, this was a very interesting week in crypto," and I was like, no, it wasn't. And then you guys started talking about how it was like that for every week. And then I looked back and said, nah, it wasn't. There's nothing going on for about a month, at least in Bitcoin, maybe in some altcoins. But if you look at the, let's call it the mother of all crypto assets, basically nothing has happened since mid of June. And that's interesting because it's also interesting that you start with a 4-hour chart. I usually start with a longer term chart and then work my way down.
I like building up. I like building up. That's my technical analysis prowess makes me want to build up from there, because
if that's how you roll, then not a problem.
Yeah.
So from this shorter term picture, that range is crystal clear. I mean, 30K obviously is the psychological level that everybody's talking about. If you look at the chart, we've seen a few dips that go back to 29.5, and then on the top side, it's a little bit more vague. I mean, I call it like it's 31, 32. Like the recent range is pretty much like 31.5. So let's call it like 29.5, 31.5. That's like the range that we're in right now. And obviously, like the last 2 days, you can see how it's trying to build a new bottom, a small bottom. And if it goes above that, I think it's about 3,500, then it clears the way for a retest of the upper boundary. And especially with the longer term picture, is actually pretty good. Yeah, go on.
Let's take a look at the slightly longer term, not the longest term, because you had a chart that went back to like the Stone Age. We're not going to show that one, but we have another one here that's a little bit longer term. It goes back like a year or so. That kind of here we're kind of on the upper ends here year to date, aren't we?
Yeah, that's the daily chart, and so that area, that 31.5, 32.5, you would actually need to have that chart that goes back to the Stone Age to figure out where it's coming from, because it was a super important support level.
That was a low
back when it broke down. That was a major low, and in technical analysis, there's kind of a rule that all support becomes new resistance, and that's exactly what we're seeing right now. You can see how that area around 30,000 is playing up every time the market gets back into that range. Happened back in April, happened in June, and it's happening again in July. Yeah. So that level is important, but what's also important is that the longer that level continues to play a role, the longer that resistance remains intact. Once we break it, it's probably going to be a very significant break, because every time we test that level and we put in a new high, what that means is that people have been selling. There was supply going to the market, and more people are selling Bitcoin. And buyers were willing to pick it up somewhere in that range. So the longer that level stays intact, the more supply has been absorbed by the market. And as soon as that supply runs out and there is still demand, you can get a very aggressive rally as soon as we get above that, let's say 32.5.
We're running low on time, of course. We did want to show the rotation graph. I don't know if we'll have time, but just real quick, what does it say? What are we doing? Give me two coins that you think are doing all right here.
All right, the two that are interesting are Doge and Polkadot. They are pushing into that leading quadrant, and they seem to be putting in new lows. The general picture here is that Bitcoin is getting stronger. The altcoins are losing some of their relative momentum, except for Doge and Polkadot on this image.
Well, Emily's thrilled about that.
Well, actually, I'm curious. Why Polkadot? I just have to ask why Polkadot.
She knows why Doge, but no.
Yeah, I know I don't.
This chart shows relative rotation versus Bitcoin, and tails, as we call them, that are moving in an angle between 0 and 90 degrees into that leading quadrant. That indicates that that coin is getting stronger and picking up more momentum versus Bitcoin. And you can see that Doge and Polkadot are doing that. If you look at Matic and Solana, they're losing. So they already have had their run, and they're now losing relative momentum. Polkadot and Doge are doing the opposite.
In answer to Emily's question, it's because technical analysis doesn't care. You don't care about fundamentals here. It doesn't matter, and that's how that works.
Not at all. No, absolutely not. People like it. That's all that counts. People are buying it.
Julius, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks so much for joining the show this morning.
No problem. Thank you.
That was StockCharts.com senior technical analyst Julius de Kempenaer.